Okay, remember that there are change models. So most people know that the world is governed by satanic cults, and the churches, mosques, and synagogues are heavily involved with them because they're trying to kind of follow a script, right? That's why in the theater it's called, this actor's script, and in the Bible it's called scriptures. And in a play, you have, acts in a play in their theater, right? The Greek theater, Dionysus, what have you. And you have the book of Acts in the Bible. And so they're very much into their magic wand, magic spell kind of game, their psychology. The Pope's symbols, for example, are symbols of psychology. The churches themselves, they're psychological symbols to the West first before they're anything else. So we left off on verse 15, right? Good judgment wins favor, but the way of the unfaithful leads to their destruction. This is Proverbs chapter 13. Okay. So we talked about, how the cowards are detestable to the righteous, how the righteousness guards the person of integrity, the light of the righteous shines brightly, how hope deferred makes the heart sick, and a longing fulfills the tree of life. And that connects to, Proverbs 15 verse 13, okay, one of my favorite verses in the whole Bible, where it says, a happy heart makes the face cheerful, but a heartache crushes the spirit. Again, a happy heart makes the face cheerful, but a heartache crushes the spirit. And the word whore, in Horus, according to some sites I came across on the internet, is said to mean face. So a happy heart makes the Son of God cheerful, but the heartache crushes the spirit. Now, why do they say face? Well, if you're sincere, you might have a sincere face. These days they have all kinds of technology and drugs and all kinds of sabotage, so it could be a little tricky, but for the most part we can still see at this point, today is the 15th, right? 7/15/2026, right? July 15th, 2026, we can still see sincerity in people to some degree. We see the fakeness. If it is based in a racial culture, okay, then it's fake. For example, if they're an English royal and they're like trying to be polite, that's the devil trying to be polite, right? If they're at a 5-star restaurant, if they have money, all that stuff is fake, right? The sincerity comes from transcending and carrying your cross. Think about the difference between me on the cross, okay, with a face that reflects loyalty to God and suffering for God and manning up for God, versus some rich spoiled worm, kissing up to some pretty airhead, who dates rich people, right? And they're all airheads. By the time you date only rich people, whether you have a PhD or not, you're an airhead. There's no other way to look at it. So verse 16, all who are prudent act with knowledge, but fools expose their folly, right? So all who are prudent, all who scramble to do the right thing, act with knowledge. So it's not just scrambling, it's scrambling to do the right thing. It's one thing to run fast, so what? How does that help you? How does that serve God? It's nothing to do martial arts with focus, moral intensity, and make it so that, and to naturally be the one no one could ever beat, fair and square. Okay, that's acting with prudence, right? Scrambling to do what's right, acting with a certain efficiency, and acting wisely, acting with knowledge of God, with knowledge of God's plan. Not knowledge of science or law enforcement or whatever, but knowledge of God's plan. A wicked messenger falls into trouble, but a trustworthy envoy brings healing. Right? So what kind of healing? Healing the soul. If a bunch of Nazis told a bunch of Jews that if they betrayed the other Jews, they'll give them medicine, is that what they're talking about? No. They started mocking God and pretending that they were holy while they were doing it. Is that what it's talking about? No. The word healed is like the word healed. The Royal African Falcon Martial Art Order, Abaham, spiritual father Ham, Abraham, okay, and that is embodied through me. I'm the King of Kings, the top martial artist ever possible. Whoever disregards discipline comes to poverty and shame, but whoever heeds correction is honored. So if you disregard that martial discipline from God, and again, I'm going to have to use the military as an example, one, because they've been trying to press me recently with their allies, and two, because this is one of the main distinctions. When we think of discipline, you might think maybe a boarding school, and it's military themed. You might think the military, you might think, somebody who wakes up every morning and jogs. Okay, that's not what it's talking about. It's talking about martial, focused, moral intensity from God, not mere conformity in finding your life in the world. A longing fulfilled is sweet to the soul, but fools detest turning from evil. So a longing fulfilled, right, is a tree of life, and that's sweet to the soul. Doing God's work is sweet to the soul, to your very essence. Everything else is wasting your life. That's why the next verse says, walk with the wise and become wise, for a companion of fools suffers harm. And this is leading up to chapter 30, where it says that the wicked are going to be punished by the Son of God. And it's coded in there when it says, who's gone up to heaven, come back down, right? Justice. He's speeding the cause of righteousness and justice, right? And faithfulness to God. Okay, and that's me, mind you. And who's wrapped up, who holds the wind in his fist, right? Who's wrapped up the waters in the cloak? Who's established the ends of the earth? Who has established what justice is and determines who's a sheep and who's a goat? Okay, and when to stop breeding. That's me, and I've called it. People should not reproduce no matter what. Trouble pursues the sinner, but the righteous are rewarded with good things. You see how, just like I said in part 1, it's a recurring theme again and again. It says these idiots keep doing these evil things. They're in rebellion against the divine order. Okay, the golden rule, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. This sums up the law and the prophets, because just like it says in Romans 1, the qualities of God are clear. That God is like the Royal African Falcon taught martial arts, not some nerdy rabbi or priest or preacher, Orthodox, Protestant, Catholic, Muslim, Jew, it's or Buddhist or Taoist or Hindu or John or Shinto. He's like, God is like me, not them. And it's obvious. Romans 1, it's obvious. And the devil's bragging that you people are missing it. A good person leaves an inheritance for his children's children, but a sinner's wealth is stored up for the righteous. So it's saying that the wicked are ruining their offspring. Instead of storing up spiritual riches for them, right? When I talk about generational righteousness, okay, the people who wrote the Bible agree with me, right? Proverbs 13, verse 22. Proverbs 13, verse 22. A good person leaves an inheritance for his children's children, but a sinner's wealth is stored up for the righteous, right? It's referring to generational righteousness versus sinners who are an idiot, who are wasting their time, and they get nothing truly out of life. And anyone dumb enough to marry them is wasting their life. They're dumb enough to have their kids. My goodness, are they an airhead, slut, prostitute? Bringing forth abominations, like it says in Revelation 17. Now, some of you might say, well, aren't you speaking rashly now? Aren't you talking recklessly? Wow. You know how dumb you would have to be if you actually thought that I'm just talking when I'm not, which is recklessly. Do you know how stupid you have to be? In Revelation 17, does it say that the whore brings about abominations? The harlot, the prostitute, brings about abominations, the mother of prostitutes, and the abominations of the earth. So you think some guy, you don't even know who it is, who wrote Revelation can say that as he sees fit. But you think the Son of God can't? Especially persecuted? Are you a complete idiot? Pretty straightforward, right? There you go. An unplowed field produces food for the poor, but injustice sweeps it away. So when there's a harvest and there's, or the potential of a field, what have you, okay, it produces food for the poor. Okay, so, plowing the ground to break it up, right? So there's different ways to look at it. The unplowed field isn't just symbolic of, hey, they didn't bother to plant food yet because they don't have the orderly structure in society to, give everyone their rightful place to make things work effectively and efficiently and logically, what have you. It also represents the idea of a harvest. Where does the harvest go to? So when we see an unplowed field, it doesn't mean the field's going to be left alone. So you have to kind of read into it. The easy idea, the easy interpretation is that the field is unplowed, right? And say, well, why is it not plowed? Why aren't they getting to work? But you can also get that from it as well. And part of the message there is you got to look deeply into it. So some people might think, hey, this guy caught his mistake. To some degree, I did look in and say, wait a second, but I knew what they were getting at because the word field is more important than the word unplowed, and the word produces is more important than the word unplowed. And the word poor and the word injustice are more important than the word unplowed. Okay. Whoever spares the rod hates their children, but the one who loves their children is careful to discipline them. Okay. So, if you don't teach your children to not shun Jesus, even if it kills them, you are going to be held accountable along with them for their failure. That's why people might have, a great-great-great-great-grandfather right now who's being cooked while they're persecuting me because they spared the rod every generation. They continue their stupid family tradition. They're mere human rules, customs, and traditions of not putting God first, and instead they decided to find their life, and all hell breaks loose. And again, leading up to Proverbs 30 verse 4. A climactic moment which isn't the limit of punishment, but it alludes to eternal punishment. The wind is a marshaling force, the water, what have you. The righteous eat to their heart's content, but the stomach of the wicked goes hungry. Now, can you imagine these cult to the flesh government worms, these churches guys, these mosques, these synagogues, regardless of how they say it, they may as well say it like a worm, because how they live it is like a worm. They're basically living it in terms of it being literal. Now, if you read the chapter carefully, even just this one chapter, you would know that it is not literal. Okay? Do righteous people get hungry sometimes? They get locked up unfairly and go hungry? Does bad things happen to them? Yeah. Do righteous people get crucified in the story? Do they get stoned to death? Do they get killed? Yeah. What it's saying is the righteous eat the fruit of doing God's work until they truly find purpose and go off to eternal life. But the wicked go hungry. They failed. They're miserable. They didn't really hunger and thirst for righteousness' sake, so they eat and they're never satisfied, so their stomach is empty. They don't ever really eat righteousness and justice. They eat some fake white social norm garbage, some Zionist, Jewish social norm rubbish. They eat some LGBT garbage, token minority stupidity, and other assorted rebel dog type of dog food for sinners going to hell. Now, do you start to see why I say it this way? Hopefully by now you see it. Okay? Because I'm in charge. If I want to say it by slapping the taste out of somebody, out of a 5-year-old kid, I would be right to do so. Because I'm in charge. And the way you people are behaving is despicable. Now, some of you might make the stupid social norm mistake of saying he's drunk with power. Well, then why do we see children die? They get sick, they die, what have you, okay? Because they're being taught a lesson. So if I wanted to teach you a lesson that way, would it be fair for me to do it? Yes. Would I do it that way? No. But I'm Christ. And we got into this mess because you don't obey me. You don't understand God, like it says in the Bible. Only the Son has seen the Father. You don't see God in that way to do what he says in the first place. And some of you like to pretend because you're like complete beta idiots on some Harry Potter stupidity, on some church magic card nonsense. Okay? We got into this mess because you people don't have faith in my judgment, because you're some kind of idiots who look at the masses of complete stupid fools, including yourselves, and you follow one of them or yourselves. And people basically did it across the board. And now look at you. There's no hope for your offspring. The world is in a miserable state. All these people suffering, all this child trafficking, all this rape. I hope you're all very proud of yourselves. Because it wasn't just the worst of you that failed God. It was all of you. Except for my parents are blameless, right? It was all of you that failed God.